There's a new baby in the house. That makes me happy. This morning's call to worship is inspired by words from the late John O'Donohue. Let us lean towards the transforming presence of beauty. Let us linger as much as we need, and perhaps even a moment longer, though not much more than that. Just as we are built for atrophy, so too are we built for generative beauty. A beauty that beckons us towards an unfolding growth, towards a possibility of deepest connection with great mystery, that of the universe and that of each other. It is good we gather. It is good we gather together. It is good we gather together to raise up that which is worthy. Please join in saying the words in unison, either English or Spanish, as we light the chalice. Here we go. Encendemos esta llama para recargarnos de la luz de la verdad, las cálidas de la comunidad y el fuego de compromiso.
Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Society of Burlington. Today is Sunday, April 6th, 2025. I'm Dan York, a member of our Worship Associates Committee. My pronouns are he, him. I live in Shelburne, and I welcome you all here, both in person and on our live stream, wherever you may be in the world. Now is a good time to silence your cell phones. You may like your ringtones, but we don't need to share those. And thank you to all of you who are not sharing germs by staying home on our live stream today. And speaking of that, we do stream and record these services and make them available on our YouTube channel. We have two cameras. One is here, one's back there, that our tech team uses to go and stream these services. If for some reason you do not want to be on any of our recordings, we do have a section, the last 7 rows there on the lower floor and up in the balcony, where you can sit and you will not appear on any of our cameras. As a Unitarian Universalist community rooted here in the heart of Burlington, we welcome all people to this shared work of building beloved community and making meaning in our lives. If you're new or newish and you feel comfortable, would you raise your hand so that we could extend a special welcome? Wonderful. So many new faces. This is wonderful. So, if you're new to UU-ism in general, you may find that we do things a little bit differently than other churches. In fact, we don't actually call ourselves a church. If you'd like to learn more about all of that kind of thing, we have a form in the pockets there that you can fill out and just leave at the basket here later. You can also go on our website and do so, or you could speak with our welcome ambassadors, who are Susan Warner-Mills and Marilyn Brill, who are right there. You can speak with them or anyone else there. And also, today is a bit of a special service because if you're new or newish, relatively new or returning, after the service at 11:30, we invite you to attend a meet and greet with the minister for newcomers. It's a chance for casual conversation about the congregation, to have any questions you have answered, to meet with other folks who are new. And that will be on the 2nd floor, which you just go out these doors, the stairs or elevator are there. And it's in the Whitney Young Room at 11:30. You are welcome to just be present here and go along with the flow of the service as it is. You are also welcome to follow along with an order of service. If you like more structure, you can look at that. If you pick up one of the hymnals that are there, there's a QR code. You can point your phone at that, and you'll get to the page on our website that talks about our live stream services, and there's a link there for the order of service, which will explain, especially if you're new, what's going to be happening today in some form, or at least some parts of it. A couple of other announcements. After the service, you can go through these doors and down the stairs to our community room where we'll have a coffee hour. It's a good time to make new friends, meet old friends, learn about things, talk to us, find out about the many different things that are going on today and throughout the time here at First UU. I did mention the meet and greet with the minister. We also have a couple of other things going on. There's a Make a Mosaic Tile event that is actually in support of CASN, the Chittenden Asylum Seekers Assistance Network. That's happening from 11:30 to 2:30 in the Susan B. Anthony room up on the second floor. Anyone's welcome to join, and you can come in and out, so if you're attending one of the other activities, you can then go in and join the Make a Tile after that. Finally, if you're new to the area, Sunday, May 25th is in the middle of Memorial Day weekend. What happens in this area on Memorial Day weekend? Marathon! How easy is it to get to the church on Marathon Sunday? Yeah, it doesn't happen. You can't get here. The whole city's shut down. If you're new to the area, yeah, you just want to avoid that. So, if you're going to be here on Memorial Day weekend, what I'd like you to do right now, I'd like you to take out your phone, go to your calendar, okay, or use Siri or whatever thing, and I want you to do FUUSB Sunday, May 25th, 4 o'clock p.m. What time was that? 4 o'clock. We're going to try something really different. So, if you are around during that time on Memorial Day weekend, 4 o'clock, you can be here. There might be cake. What time was that? Okay, good. All right. Now, more seriously, as we do every Sunday, on the first Sunday of the month, we take a moment to just note that this religious society acknowledges that the Abenaki peoples are the traditional caretakers of these Vermont lands and waters. It is by recognizing the land in a land acknowledgement that we also recognize the long existence of Native communities and their continued relationship with this land. We also pause to recognize that our country was built on the labor of enslaved people, and we recognize the historic and current systemic oppression and injustices experienced by Black Americans. We acknowledge the distinct history here of these interconnected people. We know that the impact of the past harms can still be seen and felt today, and that it is by first telling the truth that we can begin to seek and act for justice. Friends, whatever it took for you to get here, wherever you've come from, wherever you may be, whatever joys and sorrows you may be carrying today, you are welcome here. Come, let us worship together.
And I now invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join in singing hymn number 326, For All the Beauty We Have Known.
This reading is written by Adam Zagajewski and is titled, Try to Praise the Mutilated World. Try to praise the mutilated world. Remember June's long days and wild strawberries, drops of rosé wine, the nettles that methodically overgrow the abandoned homesteads of exiles. You must praise the mutilated world. You watched the stylish yachts and ships. One of them had a long trip ahead of it, while salty oblivion awaited others. You've seen the refugees going nowhere. You've heard the executioners sing joyfully. You should praise the mutilated world. Remember the moments when we were together in a white room and the curtain fluttered. Return in thought to the concert where music flared. You gathered acorns in the park in autumn, and leaves eddied over the earth's scars. Praise the mutilated world, and the gray feather a thrush lost, and the gentle light that strays and vanishes and returns.
One of the lines that Dan just spoke was, return in thought to the concert where music flared. Last night I was at the Burlington Center for the Arts because they had a kind of return to the eclipse event. Corinne was there too, and a few others. Boy, was it really amazing to be reminded in body of a year ago, a thing I thought I would never forget except for things fade. And I just want to invite you too to remember where you were at the eclipse and what it was like, the cold, the 360-degree sunset, the birds not singing, singing, all of that. So when we come together as a congregation, we have a series of spiritual practices that we do collectively. And the invitation we extend is for you to opt into those that call to you, and if it doesn't call to you, to offer your loving witness for those who do. So, in that spirit, I want to invite you to find your posture of dignity, perhaps pushing your feet to the floor, reminding yourself that you are here in this moment as we let the spirit of meditation or prayer or reflection, perhaps connection to that yearning inside of you for something larger than yourself, letting it be company in this moment. Let us slow into this space. Let us slow into this moment. Let us slow into our bodies. Let us find our breath. Let our breath find us. A breath in, however it is your body allows. A breath out, however it is your body allows. Breath to connect to self. Breath to connect to earth. Breath to connect to all that is. We hold in the circle of care, this community of compassion, Hope Baker Carr, as she marks what would have been her son Tim's 50th birthday today, knowing that she misses him dearly. We hold in this circle of care, this community of compassion, those impacted by flooding and tornadoes in the Midwest. We hold in this circle of care, this community of compassion, and at times community of demoralization, at the elusive search for a ceasefire in the war on Gaza, at the blatant and violent land grabs that harm so many. We hold in this circle of care, this community of compassion, and again, times of being demoralized, our broken system of affordable housing and the recent evictions from the motel shelter system that itself was imperfect, but was better than what we have because the impact is on our most vulnerable neighbors. In this circle of care, this community of gratitude, we give thanks for all across the country, across the globe, in this brave little state who chose to be counted as one in a number, a much, much larger number in service of growing an ever larger resistance and an ever deeper resilience. And in this circle of care, this community of gratitude, we name music and singing together as one of the medicines to which we turn again and again. Having found our breath, let us breathe. Having found our breath, let our breath breathe us. And let us share now some moments of stillness together as our hearts pray the prayers only we know until the chime rings again. Amen.
In our generosity practices, we share half the collection plate with a community partner that is living out our shared values, while the other half goes to sustain this congregation. Offerings this month will be shared with 350 Vermont, which is building a people-powered and people-led climate justice movement in Vermont for a just, thriving world. And I would like to invite Lily Jacobson of 350 Vermont to say a few words about their work.
Hi there. Oh. Okay, thank you. I've been just starting to come to the First UU Society over these last couple of months. It's been such a pleasure starting to get to know some of you and connecting in this context with those of you I know from elsewhere. And if we haven't met yet, I look forward to it. And yes, I'm here in my capacity as one of the directors of 350 Vermont, which is a statewide grassroots climate justice organization. And we're so grateful that in this month of Earth Day, the generosity of this congregation will support this critical work. It's probably not news to I'm guessing anybody in this room that the climate crisis is one of the most important existential, moral, spiritual, and practical issues of our time that connects with so many other issues of injustice. And of course, it is having such an impact all over the world, including here. And we know that it impacts different communities differently, with communities impacted by other injustices like poverty and racism, the most impacted also by the climate crisis. And we also know that on the largest scales, we are not addressing this crisis well. And that makes local efforts like the ones of 350 Vermont more important than ever. Over the years, 350 Vermont has supported local work to fight pipelines that would carry tar sands oil or gas fracked from indigenous lands through our state. We're still doing that work and challenging energy projects that burn things and everything else that contributes to greenhouse gas emissions. And we work in so many other ways. When there's the opportunity, we advocate for legislation that moves us toward clean energy and also benefits everyone and not just the wealthy. Here in the Burlington area, we're supporting local folks in trying to prevent cuts to public transportation and in fact expand public transportation. And around the state, we're working on supporting local weatherization projects and even local neighborhood geothermal projects, getting energy directly from the earth. And this is the work of regular people around Vermont. It's been incredible to me to see regular people come together to make a difference, finding courage, learning new skills, and finding and using collective wisdom and creativity and power. And in these times, the movements that bring people together to build community and take action are more important than ever in the face of division and inaction on these crucial issues. The world thanks you for your support of this work, and if you'd ever like to find ways to get involved and take action yourself, please talk with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. And if anyone wants more info, Lily, you now have seen her. You'll be able to meet with her after the service as well. She'll be around here. When the music plays in just a moment, we invite you to come forward to silently mark a joy, a sorrow, or a gratitude in your life by moving a stone from these bowls here onto the table, creating a representation of our shared lives at this particular fleeting moment. As you are moved, please come forward from the outside aisles and go back, returning through the center, making 2 aisles so people can both circulate like this. If you have a gift to add, you can leave it in the baskets on either side, or you can go on our website and you can learn right there how to go and do it. You're also welcome to just simply remain in your seats and listen to the music. Thank you. Please join me in the words of our offering dedication that should appear on the screen. With gratitude, we dedicate these gifts in the service of our mission to inspire spiritual growth, care for each other in our community, seek truth, and act for justice.
We have another reading. It's a poem called Testimony by Rebecca Baggett. And I just want to say the fourth line references sexual assault. And being a survivor myself, I just want to give you the heads up. If that might be too jarring for you, you now know. I want to tell you that the world is still beautiful. I tell you that despite children raped on city streets, shot down in schoolrooms, despite the slow poisons seeping from old and hidden sins into our air, soil, water, despite the thinning film that encloses our aching world, despite my own terror and despair. I want you to know that spring is no small thing, that the tender grasses curling like a baby's fine hairs around your fingers are a recurring miracle. I want to tell you that river rocks shine like God, that the crisp voices of the orange and gold October leaves are laughing at death. I want to remind you to look beneath the grass, to note the fragile hieroglyphics of ant, snail, beetle. I want you to understand you are no more and no less necessary than the brown recluse, the ruby-throated hummingbird, the humpback whale, the profligate mimosa. I want to say, like Neruda, that I am waiting for a great and common tenderness, that I still believe we are capable of attention, that anyone who notices the world must want to save it.
Thank you, choir. That was my personal favorite of Robert Frost's poems. Our next reading comes to us from the Reverend Mary Catherine Mourn, who is the Executive Director of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. Reverend Mourn writes, "Beauty awakens and admonishes us. Sometimes it is easier to close our eyes and stop our ears. We are here in religious community, though, not to hide from the anguished cries or the tender lullabies. We are here in religious community, not to protect our hearts from breaking. We are here together to borrow courage for the task of coming alive. We are here so that together we might heed the admonitions of beauty and answer the call to create, protect, and preserve."
I cannot, in good conscience, ignore the bitter for the beautiful. It stunned me, that sentence, when I first heard it. The voice saying it, the interview that held it. I cannot, in good conscience, ignore the bitter for the beautiful. It was March 2022, and I was preparing for a 17-day pilgrimage in the Deep South, a journey of bearing witness to very specific places of lamentation related to the enslavement of human beings and its long, tentacled aftermath of violence, lynchings, voter suppression, mass incarceration, and the vibrant, creative responses of humans in the face of such systemic oppression. The interview was won by Krista Tippett. She was talking to J. Drew Lanham, in which he said, "I cannot, in good conscience, ignore the bitter for the beautiful." Drew Lanham is an ornithologist, one who studies, and in his case, loves birds. He wrote The Home Place, Memoirs of a Colored Man's Love Affair with Nature, and a collection of poetry and meditations called Sparrow Envy, Field Guide to Birds and Lesser Beasts. And just last year, his most recent book, Justice is the Joy We Give Ourselves. He is a recipient of the MacArthur Genius Grant. Here's a longer quote from Lanham from that 2022 interview, just a small chance for you to get to know his brilliance better. "Well, to me, there's so much that's simple out there that appears simple, but that's really complex. It's sort of like the sparrow that appears brown from far away and hard to identify. But if you take the time to get to know that sparrow, then you see all of these hues. You see 5, 6, 7 shades of brown on this bird, and you see little splashes of ochre or yellow or gray and black and white, and all of these things on this bird that at first glance just appeared brown. And so in taking that time to delve into not just what that bird is, but who that bird is, and to understand, to get from some egg in a nest to where it is to grace you with its presence, that it's taken for this bird trials and tribulations and escaping all of these hazards. And so I try to think about people as much as I can in that way, that each of us has had these struggles from the nest to where we have now flown and the journeys we're on. And I think that's important too. Krista Tippett, who some of you are probably familiar with, the interviewer, she's white. And she goes on to recognize in this interview that some of what Lanham ponders is his work is, quote, how slavery and the aftermath of slavery created this alienation of people from the land. That people were forced onto nature in environments that we now pass through and even take refuge, but they were once full of pain. And Lanham, who's an African-American man born and raised in the South, living and teaching there, responded to her query in this way. He said, when I see these landscapes, I cannot, in honoring what my ancestors endured, in that nest really, to get me here where I am fledged and flying, I cannot in good conscience ignore the bitter for the beautiful. That quote, it caught my attention because I was just about to travel. I was going on sabbatical from the congregation I served before serving you. I was going to places associated with the ravages of slavery. And that sabbatical was 3 years ago exactly, and the memories have been coming back to me. And here I am preaching to you about this thing that happened but is still with me. And as I prepared for that pilgrimage, questions of what I would do when I encountered these lands of lamentation, this terrain of torture, these thoughts visited and vexed me. You see, while serving that congregation in East Brunswick, New Jersey, I was part of a multiracial group that co-founded something called the Lost Souls Public Memorial Project. You can go online, you can see it. And it was meant to remember 137 women, children, and men, both enslaved and free from New York and New Jersey, who were kidnapped in 1818. New Jersey had already passed the gradual abolition law. They were kidnapped when they would have gained their freedom. They were kidnapped by a statewide slave ring run by a judge whose home was in the town of the congregation where I served. They were kidnapped and they were sent south into permanent slavery. And after being kidnapped and before being loaded onto ships in Perth Amboy, they were kept in the home of this judge. It was called afterwards a slave castle when news of it broke. They were kept there before they were sent mostly to Louisiana, which is where I was headed 3 years ago now, in hopes of bearing witness to the 2 locations I believed some of the lost souls were sent. A plantation in what is now known as the town of Morganza, and then that part of Point Coupé Parish called Avery Island, famous because that's where Tabasco sauce comes from. In those 17 days, I also spent time in Mississippi, bearing witness to where Emmett Till was murdered in 1955. I went to Alabama, to Birmingham, to Selma, where I poured libations for our 2 Unitarian Universalist martyrs murdered in 1965 for their civil rights activism, and I went to Montgomery. I visited in Montgomery the Legacy Museum and the National Memorial for Peace and Justice, And also in Montgomery, I visited the stunning Mothers of Gynecology monument, which is lesser known, but frankly, not to be missed. It was a powerful 17 days, and I would return anytime to those places, especially to Montgomery. And I came away from this trip believing that every resident of the United States, if we could make it fiscally possible, should be required to go to the Legacy Museum. And I knew that my pilgrimage would bring me more proximal than I had ever been to the truth of chattel and race-based slavery and its vicious progeny. And I knew it would be important to schedule space in my travel schedule to allow a full integration of what I was encountering. It would be necessary to schedule space to intentionally seek beauty through art and nature and connection with people. I do not share Lanham's racial or geographic ancestry, but what I do share, what I hope is a similar intention, is to see reality as it is, with the truth of history recognized for its presence in our present. And so as his phrase took up residence in my head and my heart, bitter for the beautiful, it took on a different shape, one I believe to be complementary. If Lanham cannot ignore the bitter for the beautiful, if he cannot or will not only see the beautiful to the exclusion of the bitter, how might I use beauty to help sustain me as I actively choose to encounter the bitter? How might we, in the lives we lead, as we reside in a state known for its natural beauty, as we coexist in a watershed replete with beauty upon beauty, use this beauty to sustain us as we choose to encounter the bitter rather than to turn away? How do we ensure beauty as an antidote for the bitter, and not a medicine just for ourselves and the privileges we hold, but a universal medicine for all within the interdependent web of existence of which we are a part? Is it possible to use beauty as a companion that helps us do the needful when it comes to encountering, engaging, and transforming the bitter? Are there ways for us to cultivate beauty as a way not to turn away from or numb out to the pain of the world or even our own pain, but to take beauty as a proactive, protective, nurturing, sometimes even fierce companion to get us through the hard and the hurt and the hopelessness that befalls us in the different seasons of our lives? Now, I think it's important to say what I mean by beauty. I do not mean so-called traditional beauty with its requirement of symmetry. I mean, y'all notice how I put the fabrics on our liturgical items. You will rarely see symmetry from me there. And I do not mean only lithe bodies, though they can be as beautiful as fat bodies, that's true. I do not mean only narrow Western fantasies of what is beautiful and what isn't. By beauty, I mean an array of things. Connection, which is another way of saying the felt feeling of interdependence. Nature, and for this brief sermonic moment, I mean art. And by art, I mean both the appreciation for art created by others and sometimes found in nature, as well as participating as an agent in the act of creation, whether or not it results in great art. Great art. Who needs great art? Art reminds us of our agency in the world, our ability to shape and change the narrative, to be shaped and changed by the narrative. Art which brings us into our history and seeds possibilities of the future. Actually, in seeking out art on my pilgrimage, I was borrowing a page from a book written over and over again by communities that have experienced systemic oppression, from women who have experienced misogynistic violence and ongoing institutional efforts to control our bodies, to communities of color where racist violence takes overt and subtle forms, to folks who identify as queer or trans experiencing hostility, humiliation, and too often fatal harm, to a nation experiencing the dismantling of democracy. We see it in the clever posters that happened all over yesterday. Former U.S. Poet Laureate Elizabeth Alexander describes the African American tradition of responding to oppression with art in this way. Black creativity emerges from long lines of innovative responses to the death and violence that plagues our communities. She then goes on to quote Toni Morrison from Beloved, "Not a house in the country ain't packed to its rafters with some dead Negro's grief." And then Alexander says, "I am interested in creative emergences from that ineluctable fact." Beauty. Crucial, at least for me, to encounter the bitter and not be consumed by it, so that I won't turn away from it. Beauty as medicine, as healing. Beauty as antidote to the bitter, especially when facing the legacy of systemic oppression, especially when encountering the active dismantling of our democracy, especially when wondering how we can be a healing salve, a cleansing ointment in the midst of a crisis-riddled climate. Has beauty worked that way in your life? Helped you get through bitter times? Times of lamentation? Has beauty in the form of art been a source of meaning when you could not otherwise find your purpose? A pathway to find your way when you thought there was no way? A respite so that you could keep on keeping on? Might beauty be one of our tools? Maybe. Could be. Worth giving it a try, worth risking. Because part of how we get to a more just, more equitable reality, if we, especially those of us with identities of privilege, whether they're economic or racial or gender, if we are to find our way and make our way to encounter, engage, and ultimately transform the bitters of systemic oppressions, we need these tools. We need these strategies. So, to become a Unitarian Universalist minister, one must go before the daunting Ministerial Fellowship Committee, the MFC, and pass an hour-long interview, like for those of you who have your doctorates, right? It's an oral defense kind of thing. And it starts with lighting a chalice, and you get to choose the words that you use, and most of us come up with words that we want to share. So after 5.5 years of study, when I went before the MFC about 9 years ago, these are the words I wrote for that context, and I share with you now. What to do with beauty, or joy for that matter, in the midst of tragedy, of violence, of cruelty. What do we do with the living? Give each their due. Do not lose ourselves in any of it, but find ourselves anew. Where there is beauty, amplify it. Where beauty is hidden, reveal it. Where beauty is ruined, restore it. Where beauty is absent, create it. This will be our gift to the aching world. So be it. See to it. Amen.
I was going to be all subtle there. Start the guitar going. I'm going to sing it through once. If you already know it, feel free to join in right from the beginning. But if you don't, feel free to listen and we'll get it the second time around. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change, alive from deep within the earth. It is time now, it is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the west. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. One more time, we're going to ignore that broken string. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change, alive from deep within the earth. It is time now, it is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the west. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
As we draw our service to a close, would you please join me in the words of our chalice extinguishing? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and share with the world until we are together again.
May you know the blessing you already are. May you sense the blessing you yet can be. And may we all go out and be a blessing in the world.